in the World Cup final, Argentina already losing, two players got tangled off the ball. Messi and Marc Cucurella, a bit of shoving, the kind of thing that happens 40 times a match. Nothing. Except watch what Messi did next. He spun to referee Slavko Vincic and pointed straight at Cucurella, already walking a yellow. Wayne Rooney said the quiet part out loud. Messi knew exactly what he was doing, Rooney said. He was trying to get Cucurella sent off, the greatest of all time, accused of winning ugly on his last World Cup night. Rooney was in the studio for the biggest match football had to offer, and he is not a man who reaches for a controversy that is not there. He played the game at the top for 2 decades. He captained England. He knows what a professional foul looks like, and he knows what it looks like when a player works the referee. So when he watched that little tangle back, he did not describe a scuffle. He described a plan. And once you hear how he framed it, you cannot watch the moment the same way again. Here is what happened on the pitch. The final was gone from Argentina long before this. Spain were in control, Messi was chasing a game he could not get his foot on, and the clock was the enemy. Argentina had not managed a single shot on target. Emiliano Martinez was the busy one, keeping his own team in it, tipping away a Lamine Yamal free kick, watching Nico Williams fire at him on the break. That is the score you have to hold in your head. Argentina were not pushing for a winner. They were hanging on. Then, away from the ball, Messi and Cucurella came together. A shove, a shoulder, some words. On its own, forgettable. What was not forgettable was Messi's reaction. He turned to Vincic and pointed at Cucurella, hard and deliberate, the way a player points when he wants a card shown, not when he wants a free kick. And this is the part almost nobody clocked live. The moment was serious enough that it went to a video check. Not for the shove, for something else. Referees at this tournament were working under a rule that punishes players for covering their mouths while they argue with an opponent, brought in after the racism cases involving Vinicius Jr., when players learned to hide what they were saying from the cameras and lip readers. Some in the crowd wanted Cucurella looked at under exactly that rule for confronting Messi with a hand over his mouth. The check ran. In the end, no action was taken, and the match rolled on to extra time. But sit with that for a second. The flashpoint Rooney is talking about was live enough and heated enough that officials stopped the World Cup final to look at it twice. So what exactly is Rooney accusing him of? Not a foul, not losing his head, something colder. Here are his words, not a summary of them. Messi is experienced. He knows exactly what he is doing there. He is trying to get him sent off. Read that back. Rooney is not saying Messi lost his temper. He is saying the opposite. He is saying Messi kept his head completely, saw a chance, and took it. That a man with more big game minutes than almost anyone alive knew that a second yellow to Cucurella would tilt the final and went looking for it. Rooney did not stop there either. Speaking to The Sun, he put a harder word on it. He called it desperation. Argentina play like that, he said. We know that is what they do. But the one thing you want is good sportsmanship, and that was sad to see Lionel Messi doing that. Sad. From one of the most decorated English players ever, about the best player of his generation, on the night that generation was supposed to end in dignity, that word is doing a lot of work. Now, why does the second yellow matter so much? Because it is the whole case. Cucurella, by the read going around after the match, was already on a booking. One more, and he walks. And a defender sent off. With Spain, a man up in a final they were already controlling, would have handed Argentina the one lifeline they had left. Argentina had barely laid a glove on Spain all night. A man advantage was the only thing on that pitch that could have dragged them back into it. So the accusation is not that Messi wanted Cucurella told off. It is that Messi wanted the numbers changed, and knew that pointing an already booked player toward a referee was the fastest way to change them. That is the difference between a scuffle and a tactic. A scuffle is two tired men shoving at the end of a lost game. A tactic is knowing the other man is one card from gone and putting the referee in a position to show it. Rooney watched it and decided he was looking at the second one. So, there is the shape of the accusation. A lost final. A captain who could not change it with football. An opponent one booking from an early shower, and a point at the referee that Rooney says was aimed at that booking and nothing else. Read like that, it is not a flash of temper. It is the coldest thing a footballer can do, done by the man least expected to do it. And here is the part that turned one pundit's take into a talking point that swallowed the whole night. Because Rooney was not alone. Once he said it, the studio opened up. Joe Hart, the former England goalkeeper, watched the same footage and did not hide his reaction. He said he did not enjoy that at all from Lionel Messi. Then he added the line that stung the most. "You realize how on top Spain are," he said, "if even Lionel Messi is reverting to that. Even Messi." As if the gamesmanship was a white flag, proof that the football had failed and only the dark arts were left. Micah Richards weighed in too, and he kept it simple. "We do not want to see people getting sent off in a World Cup final for that," he said, meaning a bit of shoving at the end of a lost game. Coming from a defender who spent a career on the receiving end of exactly this sort of thing, it carried a certain weight. And then there was Piers Morgan, who has never hidden which side of the Messi and Ronaldo argument he sits on, and who has spent years in Ronaldo's corner. He is reported to have called Messi a nasty little sneak. Whatever you think of Morgan, that phrase travels. It is the kind of line that ends up on every clip and every thumbnail, and it turned a refereeing moment into a question about the man himself. Notice what had happened. The conversation was no longer about a card. It was about whether the most admired footballer alive had a hidden streak nobody wanted to admit was there. If you have been keeping score at home, that is a former England captain, a former England keeper, a Premier League defender, and a broadcaster with millions of followers, all pointing at the same 10 seconds. Drop your read in the comments, because the studios could not agree on it, and neither can the internet. That is how a shrug of a moment becomes the story of a final. Because the moment did not happen in a vacuum. To understand why the accusation stuck, you have to look at what the rest of Argentina's night looked like. This was not a clean team having one bad 10 seconds. Minutes earlier, in stoppage time of the second half, Enzo Fernandez had been sent off. He had already been booked, and then he arrived horribly late on Pau Cubarsi, Spain's teenage defender, and sent him flying. Vincic showed the second yellow. It was, by every account, a straightforward call. Fernandez became one of only a handful of players ever sent off in a World Cup final. And this is the part where it stopped being a one-off. Fernandez had been sent off earlier in this very World Cup cycle, in a qualifier, for a boot raised too high that caught an opponent in the head and drew blood. Same player, same tournament run, same pattern. So by the time Messi turned to point at Cucurella, Argentina were already a man down, already ragged, already leaking discipline. Add the numbers up. No shots on target in regulation, a red card. A brawl waiting to happen, and in the middle of all of it, the captain working the referee. Then the game ended the only way it could. Down to 10 men, out of ideas, Argentina held on to extra time and hoped for penalties, the one lottery that might have saved a night where they had created nothing. It did not come. Ferran Torres, on as a substitute, scored early in the second half of extra time, and that was the World Cup. Spain won it 1-0, their second world title, 16 years after their first, and the moment the whistle went, the tension that had been building all night finally snapped. Players from both sides piled in near the touchline, shoving and swinging, the champions and the fallen champions ending football's biggest match in a scrum. That is the frame the Cucurella moment sits inside. Not a clean game with one odd flashpoint. A meltdown, from the first whistle to well past the last. That is the backdrop that made Rooney's line land. Nobody was pretending Argentina were playing beautiful football and got unlucky. They had barely touched the ball. They had not tested the Spain goalkeeper in any way that mattered. And when a great team cannot win with football, the accusation goes, it reaches for the other stuff. Rooney's claim was not a lone shot. It was the loudest voice in a room that had already decided this Argentina team had lost its composure long before the final whistle. We take every flashpoint of this tournament apart while it is still moving, and this one is nowhere near settled. If you want the World Cup covered the way it really happens, the arguments and all, subscribe and stay with us. There are more of these coming out of this final than any of us expected. Now, back to it, because the case has a second side. And here is where the story gets hard to call. Let us be fair, because you deserve the other side. Because there is a version of this where Messi did nothing that any other captain would not have done. Start with Cucurella. When that video check happened, it was not only about Messi. Cucurella was the one accused of covering his mouth while he confronted Messi, and some Spain watchers thought Cucurella himself was lucky to stay on. So the man Messi supposedly tried to get sent off may not have been an innocent bystander at all. He may have been giving as good as he got. Then there is the situation. Messi was losing a World Cup final, the last one he will ever play, with a team that could not string 3 passes together. Every competitor who has ever laced up boots has appealed for a card in a moment like that. Pointing at a referee is not a crime. Half the players on the pitch do it every single week, and nobody calls it the dark arts when a defender does it in a Tuesday night league game. And here is the twist that hangs over the whole accusation, because the man making it has stood in exactly this spot. Back at the 2006 World Cup, in a quarterfinal against Portugal, Wayne Rooney stamped on Ricardo Carvalho and got sent off. His own Manchester United teammate, a young Cristiano Ronaldo, sprinted to the referee to plead for the red, then turned and winked at the Portugal bench once it was shown. England went out on penalties. Ronaldo scored the one that knocked them out. For years, that wink was the picture of everything English fans hated about gamesmanship. Except listen to what Rooney himself said about it later. He did not hold a grudge. He said he would have done the exact same thing in Ronaldo's boots. If he deserved the red, Rooney said, if it would help us win, yes, no question, I would do it tomorrow. And then, the line that lands right on top of this Messi row, Rooney admitted that in the first half of that same game, he had been in the referee's ear trying to get Ronaldo booked for diving. His words, "That happens in football." Players speak to referees, and it is not always highlighted, but it happens. So, the man on television calling Messi a sneak for working the official once worked the official himself, admitted it, and said he would do it again for a win. That does not make Rooney wrong about Messi. It might make him the best possible witness, someone who knows the move because he has made it. Or it makes the whole charge a little softer, because if getting an opponent sent off to help your team win is just something footballers do, then Messi is guilty of being a footballer. That is the honest question sitting under all of this. Is this Messi being a villain, or the greatest player alive doing an ordinary, slightly ugly thing and getting held to a higher standard precisely because he is Messi? Rooney's answer is that experience is the difference. That an ordinary player waving his arms is noise, but Messi doing it is calculation, because Messi always knows exactly where the edges are. That is the case. Whether it convicts him is something the tape does not decide for you. It just sits there, the point, the referee, the already booked defender, and lets you argue. And that is what makes this bigger than one refereeing spat. Because of who it is and when it happened. This was almost certainly Messi's last World Cup match. 39 years old, a World Cup already won, a legacy that did not need another minute of football to be complete. He ended the night in tears, a lost final, and no more tournaments to fix it. And the last images of him on this stage are not a guard of honor. They are a losing team, a red card, a brawl, and a former England captain on television saying the greatest of all time spent his final World Cup night trying to get an opponent sent off. That is the weight of it. Legacies are built out of moments, and this is now one of Messi's, whether it is fair or not. For 20 years, the argument against him was that he was too clean, too quiet, too nice to be the fiercest competitor in the sport. Critics said he floated above games, that he did not have the nasty streak the truly ruthless winners carry. On his last World Cup night, the argument flipped completely. Now the charge is the exact opposite. Now the charge is that he wanted a man sent off to save a game that was already gone. The same player accused of the opposite sin at the very end of the road. And there is a cruelty to the timing that is hard to miss. This was supposed to be the send-off. A guard of honor, a lap of the pitch, the greatest of a generation walking off the World Cup stage for the last time to an ovation. Instead, the final images are a beaten team, a red card, a brawl, tears on the halfway line, and a chorus of former players on television, turning one small gesture into a verdict on his character. The football did not give Messi the ending. Neither did the studio. So here is the one worth arguing over, and we mean it. We read these. When you watch that moment back, what do you see? A cold, experienced player working the referee? Exactly like Rooney says? A desperate captain doing what any losing captain does? Or a great man held to an impossible standard because his name is Messi and the cameras never blink? Tell us below, and tell us which pundit got it right. We will be here as the fallout from this final keeps coming, and by now you know where the button is.